to real estate. I knew one thing. I knew what was important to a seller, because again, we were sellers, and I knew what was important to buyers. So I was like, you know what? So instead of me paying other people to sell my properties, why don't I just go get my real estate license? So I got my license, and then I started, representing buyers and sellers. And I still do mortgages as well, because again, that's one of my passions. I love doing that. Math was my favorite subject in high school. My children look at me, they're like, Mom, math? I'm like, oh yeah.
Really?
But I wasn't always full of success. So I mean, I come from very humble beginnings. I was a single struggling mom of two at the time. I mean, it was a time where I was living paycheck to paycheck. I was broke and broken. I didn't know how I was going to pay my rent at the time, because when I went out on maternity leave, my short-term disability hadn't kicked in. So I'm moping around the apartment, wondering how I'm gonna pay this rent, when the rent due, and I don't have no money in my bank account. So I couldn't get government assistance. I went to them. I was so crazy and ignorant to the system. When I applied for childcare, I kept trying to figure out, why am I keep getting the same worker, not knowing they're going by the last name. So I applied 3 different times. I said, well, if I would have kept applying, he probably would have felt sorry for me and gave it to me. But just so happened, my short-term disability just kicked in right on time. And I'm like, you know what, God, you do it every time. So that was when I decided, you know what, I have to take control of my own finances. I had to watch how I'm spending my money. I had to start planning, because budgeting just wasn't my thing. So, but I knew then I was in a hole that I couldn't get out of. And I knew one thing, I don't want to go back to this hole. So I knew I had to take control. I couldn't go to the system. They wasn't trying to give me nothing. They said I made too much. I was trying to figure out what was too much, because I felt like I didn't make enough. So that's when I decided, you know what, let me just get my life right, start budgeting, learning about finances. Then when I got into the banking industry, it was seeing millionaires coming to the bank, not even looking like millionaires. And I'm just asking them questions and talking to them and watching their bank account and watching how they make moves. And I'm like, I like this. So then I worked in Metairie. So then I got a transfer to Gentilly. I worked at the Chase Bank. So I was like, you know what? This is a beautiful thing to start just teaching people that look like me what I learned from when I was working in Metairie. And I helped so many people at the bank. It was a beautiful thing for me. So that's when I got into real estate and everything, and then got a better life.
Yeah, those stories is powerful. It takes, a lot of guts to be able to unpack your story sometimes. But I tell people all the time, you can't have a testimony without a test, right? And so I want you guys to always remember that sometimes we want to hold in those stories, but release those stories. You can unpack your story as much and as little as you want, but somebody need to hear your story, because we're going through a lot of tough times right now. So never be afraid to tell your story. And so, with that being said, my story, a lot of you guys may not know that, I was born and raised in New Orleans from a 2-parent household. My dad was a construction worker and a maintenance technician. My mom was a stay-at-home mom all my life until I made maybe 12 or 13 years old. And when she decided to go back to work part-time, because I was old enough to do certain things for myself. But when she went to work, she was working as a domestic worker. So she wasn't making a whole lot of money neither. We had a middle-class family that we came from. I had an older brother. He was 11 years older than me. And he used to share stories of things that he went through, and even stories of the friends that he was hanging around as a teenager, in hopes that I could miss some of that stuff, right? But still, even though I had all that support at home, I still became an at-risk youth growing up in the city of New Orleans, to the point where I was arrested twice. My senior year, I went to Kennedy Senior High School. The second time I was actually had a trial, right? I had to go to court, right? And I thank the Most High God I wasn't convicted. I don't have any felonies, anything like that, because my life could have turned in a different direction. So I realized that I was in the wrong environment after that second time. And by the time I made 19 years old, I became a struggling teenage father. And when I turned 25 years old, that was in 2005. How many of you guys remember 2005, right? Coming from New Orleans, Hurricane Katrina, right?
Yeah.
And so I was one of the ones, like many other ones in New Orleans, that lost everything that we owned. And I remember evacuating the day before out in Atlanta, Georgia, sitting at the edge of that bed in a hotel room, just staring at the news, right? And I remember seeing a clip of a grocery store right on the corner of Elysian Fields and Robert E. Lee. That grocery store was called Ferrero's, right? And I remember seeing water above that roof line, and something, I had a thought, and the thought came to me and said, Randy, if this grocery store is underneath water, then your home is around the corner. Your house is destroyed. What are you going to do? You have less than $500 in your bank account. How are you going to pay for this hotel room? Your credit score is horrible, it's in the low 500s. You can't use credit. And your job, that one income stream that you have, your job, is not functioning right now. And we don't know when you're going to go back. So what are you going to do? And I remember my heart was racing. I started to sweat. My stomach felt like they had butterflies in it, to the point where it felt like bats, right? Like bats was actually in my stomach. And so I remember the Most High God took care of us, though. You know, he said he'll never leave you, he'll never forsake you. And I remember we was able to get an apartment, right? We had an apartment and we slept on that floor, me and my two boys, with no pillow, no cover, no sheet, just pure carpet. But we was grateful, right? And so I decided at that point, I made a decision and said, you know what? Enough is enough. I'm broken, I'm busted, and I hit rock bottom. So I was laying on my back, and I remember one of my mentors, his name is Les Brown. He said, listen, if you can look up, you can get up. And so I made a decision that I'm going to get my finances in order. I'm going to work on my credit. I'm going to be disciplined. And I did just that. I found a couple of mentors, which one was my older brother. He had just purchased a house 1 year prior. I just wasn't listening. And so I found these mentors, I found these coaches, and I latched onto them and started attending webinars and conference calls, just like we're doing right now. In 1 year, in December 2006, I'll never forget it, I bought my first home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath out in Slidell. Little small, 1,200 square feet, but that's all I needed. I was 26. And 30 days later, I bought my first cash flowing investment property. It was a duplex, 3-bedroom, 2-bath on one side, a 2-bedroom, 1-bath on the other side. And that started to cash flow. So they gave me some cushion and cash flow. And I remember family members and friends and colleagues were like, Randy, what did you do, right? Because I was so broke, guys, I tell you, I walked past the bank and I tripped the alarm, right? The alarm just go off, right? I was so broke that the creditors would call the house. My children would answer the phone. My daddy said he's not home, right? Look, I've been there. I've not done that. And so they wanted to know, how did I do it? And I started to provide resources and education and point them in the right direction. And I found a mortgage bank, that a mortgage company we was referring to. And then also got really into finances. Then I realized, you know what? I think I found my passion. I think this is what I want to do. And so from there, fast forward, I met my wife, Veronica. She was in the banking industry, as she mentioned. Her story is almost similar to mine. And then we made that connection and we started to buy properties and rehab them. And then we started doing it very, very aggressively. And then we started to build new construction to a point where we had several projects going on at one time. We have a large real estate investment group, and we was teaching classes where we had tour buses all around the Gentile area where we was going from house to house, teaching individuals how to get access to the capital, and how to be able to buy a property, rehab it, and sell them to what? To create financial security. So I've been doing this since 2008. That's when I actually obtained my my mortgage origination license. So I've seen a lot of things come and go. So I promise you guys, I tell my story because I want you guys to know, not to be boastful or prideful, that anybody can help you get in those keys in your hand. My team and I, my wife and I, our team can make that happen for you. Fair enough? So listen, let's just dive right into this. So I'm gonna share my screen. You might see me look off from time to time because people are still coming in. I have to let them in. So bear with us. All right, guys, do me another favor. Let me know if you guys can actually see our screen. Give me a yes, thumbs up, something like that.
He can't see us.
We good?
Phone dude.
And make sure you guys are on mute too as well.
Okay, Ray, put me on mute.
All right. Yep, we good to go. You guys see our screen. Thank you very much, Brittany. Appreciate it. So for those of you who haven't had an opportunity to swing by Louisiana Housing Authority website, that's lahousingauthority.org. When you go there, there's a tab that says education. So make sure you take advantage of those free tools, a lot of free videos that we put together, right? And the reason why we've done that, because we saw a lot of misinformation, inaccurate information, and this, quite frankly, information that just wasn't correct. So we made a decision to say, hey, let's put together some content. We're not going to charge for it. And now individuals get access to updated, accurate information, because not only are you just talking to an organization, but you're talking to actually the lenders themselves, right? So having said that, let's look at the first thing that we want to accomplish, right? And that is belief, right? Belief is everything. And belief is so important. We hear it a lot, but sometimes we don't know how to believe. We hear that we should have faith, but again, sometimes we don't know how to have faith. And the way you have faith, guys, number one, you have to see it to believe it, right? You have to see it to believe it. But I'm not talking about just in that physical eye to believe it. You have to visualize, right? You have to visualize and see yourself already in the home that you desire. I'm gonna say that again in a different way. You have to take the time and write down what you want your life to look like. Mm-hmm. You have to know what type of car you want to drive. You have to know what type of home you want to live in, what type of income you need every single month to pay all your bills and hopefully have some left over to do other things with your family. You have to know that. I'm talking about details. How many bedrooms you want in your home? How many bathrooms do you want? What's the square foot or the square feet that you need? 3 bedrooms, 2 bed, 1,500 square feet, 4 bedroom, 2.5 bed, 2,500 square feet. You have to know those details and you have to write them down. And when you write them down, don't worry about what nobody thinks. Don't worry about what nobody's saying. This is for you and the Lord, period. Right?
Actually, we were instructed to write our vision down. Habakkuk 2:2. For the people that's on this call that can hear my voice that believe, Habakkuk 2:2. Write it down and make it plain.
Right. And so now you write it down, but you're writing in the tense as if it's already done. I am happy and grateful because I've purchased and live in a 4 bedroom, 2.5 bath home. Thank you. Thank you. Those are the 2 greatest words, is I am and thank you. So you want to write it down, make it very, very plain, make it very clear. And not only just write it down once, you want to see it every single day when you wake up in the morning and before you retire to sleep. And you speak that. I'm so happy and grateful because I have my life, right? So you want to be able to do just that. In addition to that, when you're visualizing this, you're seeing it in your mind's eye. Again, you only believe what you see. That's how you create your belief. You only create faith and sustain faith by what you hear. Faith comes from hearing and hearing and hearing the word, not just the Bible, ladies and gentlemen. Any word. That's the old cliche. You hear a lot long enough, you tend to what? Believe it. So you got to speak it out loud, speak it out of your mouth so you can hear your own words consistently over and over again. Visualize so you can see it in your mind's eye over and over again. That builds up your belief and that builds up your faith. The next thing you got to do, and I'm going to give you an analogy, a quick story. If you have a tomato plant, a bush that you want to grow outside, a sunflower plant, any plant that you want to plant, the first thing you have to do is have that seed and place it in good soil. And you must have frequent solar energy and water for that seed to grow. Well, your vision, what you want in reality, is a spiritual seed. If you could think about it, if you could have that thought, you've been there. There is a place, there exists, you can go there. So you obviously, you wouldn't be on this call if you didn't have an idea or a thought that you could be a homeowner. Yes, you could be a homeowner. It's just following a certain plan in a certain way. And we're going to give you that plan. But I need you to believe first. So to finish that story, frequent sun, solar energy, and water, consistently, frequently, every day. And the same thing with that spiritual seed, that idea, your vision of being a homeowner. You got to feed it your energy every single day. Frequently feed that energy to it by what? Reading it, visualizing it, speaking it, and talking to anybody and everything about it. Don't worry about what nobody thinking. Don't worry about this is for you. So I'm telling you guys, if you know me, I'm a big believer of belief and faith and how to create the proper mindset. Because this is the foundation, ladies and gentlemen. Believe it or not, you have to believe first, because you're going to have some challenges. Your credit score might not be perfect. Your income might not be perfect. But if you believe and you have consistent faith that it's going to come to pass, then you will eventually get there. So that's number one, guys, is belief. Number two, the next thing you want to do, guys, is get pre-approved, right? What does that look like, right? Pre-approved is basically that you are contacting a lender, having a conversation with them, giving them the documents you need so they can review these documents. So that way they know what your income is that they can use. They know what your expenses is on your credit report every month. And when they marry those two together, they could come up what we like to call in the mortgage industry, debt to income ratio. And that ultimately shares exactly how much can you be pre-approved for, right? So Veronica and I, as you know, are both lenders. So when we get you on the phone, we just simply have a natural conversation. We call it a free consultation. We just want to kind of know a little bit about your background, a little bit about your finance. So we're going to ask some particular questions, right?
Yep. And those questions, when we ask those questions, it may seem intrusive, but it's actually to help you. We're on your side. That's like when if you ever had to hire an attorney for anything, you had to what? Give them your story, tell them what's going on so that they can what? Help you to get to where you want to be. So those questions we ask stuff like, how long have you been employed? What's your credit score? How much do you make a month before taxes? Are you employed or self-employed? We ask those kind of questions. Then when we ask about credit, we may go into more details and then more depth about that. I know when I got ready to purchase my first home, I immediately froze up when I met with the lender because I felt like she was asking me questions about my credit report, and I felt embarrassed, to be honest with you, because I had messed it up. I didn't have a good credit score. So when she was asking me, well, what happened with this account? What happened with that account? She didn't make me feel comfortable. So when I got into this industry, I said, you know what, when I'm asking people these questions, I'm gonna let them know, hey, it's okay to tell me what's going on so I can help you. I need you to be honest with me so I can help you. So
yeah, absolutely. And I jokingly say this with some of my clients. I say, listen, as we go through this mortgage process, I'm going to be the one you tell your deep, dark financial secrets to, right? So don't go buy no new vehicle right now, right? Don't go buy no furniture for the house. Just keep everything the same. So why is that important? Well, that's important because depending on the loan product that you get pre-approved for, it has certain guidelines that's set up through the government, right? Or set up through private corporation. It's guideline. It's not personal. It's not about if you're tall or short. It's not personal. It's just guidelines. Do you meet these guidelines? And the only thing we want to do is give you the guidelines so you know what it is as an action plan And all you have to do is just follow the plan.
Yep, and here it is too. Once you get pre-approved, you want to keep that financial picture. Like Randy said, don't go and buy no car, don't open up no credit cards, don't open up no new bank account. You have to keep the same financial picture because we don't want anything to change. If something changed, your pre-approval may change, right? And that may delay the process. So I like to tell people something like this, give you an analogy of what I'm saying. When you are going out to a restaurant or to a party, when you're at home, when you get dressed and you go out to that party at that restaurant, do you get undressed? I hope not, but all I'm saying is we don't usually get undressed at the restaurant party. You keep what you have on, you keep that on. That's how we need you to be once you get pre-approved.
Right, because we took a look at all your financials. We know exactly what your credit score is. We know what all your good debts are. We know what all your bad debts are, right?
Right.
And so if we didn't tell you nothing about your bad debts, then you're okay. Leave them alone, right?
Yeah.
And so, my analogy and my story is kind of like, taking a family photo, right? It's 2022 now. So we all go and take a family photo in 10 years from now, and somebody else see that photo, or you look at that photo and say, man, look how we dressed back then. Look how we were. Well, the photo is the exact same. And that's how you want your financial picture the same way. You have a snapshot, you have your pre-approval, and just don't do nothing. Just go look for your house, get those keys in hand, right?
And don't even pay off collections.
Right. Talk to the mortgage lender. Talk to us before you make the decision. So guys, that is step 2, get pre-approved, right? So let's move on. Commandment number 1, no BIS. Randy, what in the world is BIS? You got it. No butts in seats, right? No butts in seat with your realtor until you have a pre-approval by your lender, right? And so why is that important? Now, I'm not telling you don't have to get in an environment of success, right? I'm real big on it. You heard me talk about belief earlier. I'm real big on getting in an environment of success. So if you need to be able to drive around some of these homes for sale and get in there and look in the window, by all means do that, because that builds up your faith, that builds up your belief that, hey, I can do this. If that's the neighborhood that you want to live in, then drive that neighborhood in the morning time before you go to work, drive it in the evening time, and just picture yourself and visualizing yourself, feeling the feeling. That's the important thing, guys. I want to get that, right? Not only that you visualize, but you feeling the feeling is associated with what you already having accomplished. So you're driving through the area, you're driving through the neighborhood. That's okay. But what we're trying to make you aware, I should say, is that you don't want to get in the vehicle with your realtor and have them driving you around town unless you have their pre-approval, because you cannot make an offer just yet. Just keep in mind, the realtors, they are not getting paid W-2. They get paid when they close, right? So you do want to be respectful of their time, just like you want your time respectful. So that brings us to step 4, attain a purchase agreement. Now that you talk to the lender, you have that information to them, you have a pre-approval letter, it tells you exactly what it is. Let's say that it's $250,000. You can go up to $250,000. That don't mean you need to spend $250,000, right? You can spend 180. We could do 190.
They're
right?
driving it on your red truck too?
Hey guys, make sure you're not driving on. Make sure your phone's muted. Thank you, everybody. So that doesn't mean you have to spend my point of $250,000. You could have up to $250,000. So now that you're shopping with your realtor, right? Your realtor gonna have a conversation with you, right? I'm gonna let Veronica speak on that.
Okay. So what we do is we, like Randy said, we go along with your pre-approval. And once you find a house that you love, and notice I said love, because
not maybe.
No, not maybe, because you have to pay this mortgage for 30 years. So I always tell people, don't rush it. Don't just, when you think, hey, okay, well, I'm tired of looking for houses. It's been 6 months, because that's the type of market we're in right now. And some people find themselves settling. But when you find a house that you love, the first thing we do is write a purchase offer and submit it to the seller to ask them, would they be willing to accept your offer? So if they say yes, then what happens next is you are officially under contract. So at that point, then we can move to step 4.
Yep. Step 5, right?
Oh, step 5.
Yep. Let's go back. Sorry about that, guy. And so now you, with that realtor, you found a home, you have a contract that was submitted, it's accepted, both parties signed, you signed and the seller signed, right? Everything is initial. So now you have a contract. That's time to celebrate.
Yeah.
Like we have a saying in our household, every small win or big win, we celebrate, literally celebrate, celebrate, right? Because these are milestones, right? And so as you hit these milestones, you have to be able to enjoy the process, right? Be happy and free now, enjoy the process, right? So you want to celebrate that. Go get you a nice steak dinner or something, right? Do what you got to do, celebrate, but don't spend all your money, right?
Right.
So now that you have the contract, right? You found the house you love, you have the contract, you're feeling good, right? Now it's the time to start shopping, not just for the home anymore. Now you have to start shopping for your third party insurances and your title settlement company, right? I'm going to speak on the insurance part. So the insurance, you have homeowners insurance, that if Hurricane Katrina come or any other hurricane, some type of blizzard, whatever the case may be, I know blizzard in the one. She laughed at me. You already, she whispered to me, blizzard.
Well, these days you never know.
Right. And so that homeowners insurance is going to actually cover you, right? Your asset, that's your asset. So you want to make sure that's covered. 2, flood insurance. If the house is in a flood zone, then you will be required to have flood insurance by the lender. Homeowners insurance is actually required too by the lender. But if it's not in a flood zone, you're in a flood zone X, it's not required by the lender, but we recommend that you still get that flood insurance for your peace of mind. So you want to get those quotes, right? These quotes have to be reasonable quotes, but quotes that's also going to protect your asset. And then the last one is title settlement company. Randy, what is a title settlement company? Well, what that simply is, there's companies that's called title settlement companies. Some of them have attorneys, some of them are just notary, but they have researchers that will go down to the city mortgage recorder office and they're to research title to make sure that seller that's actually selling you that property actually owns the property.
The right to sell it.
You'll be surprised sometimes you have one person on a purchase contract that you've been communicating with, but they have siblings that owns percentages of the property's title. So that's one of the things that the title company does is research title, make sure it was transferred properly in the past, and they can even issue title insurance to make sure that you protect it once you buy that property. But those are third-party fees, right? Third-party fees, which is the title company, your flood insurance company, right? So I want you guys to really get that part.
So again, flood insurance, even if it's not required, we're in New Orleans, you still want to get it.
Oh yeah.
That's for sure. Because somebody asked a question like, what about flood zone C? So they have different, the FEMA way they rate it, they have different flood zones and they describe it by letters. So you can go to their website and actually look at the zones. And that's something that the insurance company will help you with.
Right.
But even though, if your home is not in the flood zone, I still recommend that you still get flood insurance.
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, it's your peace of mind, right? You want to make sure you protect it. Again, those who heard my story at the very beginning, I lost everything I own in Hurricane Katrina, along with many other people that you know. So we're not taking those risks and those chances anymore.
Right.
So let's talk about step 6. Get a home inspection.
This is my favorite part. So I like to talk about this one. So with the home inspection, the lender does not require it, but it is highly recommended that you get a home inspection. So a home inspector is a person that goes out to the home and they tell you even if it's a new construction, I can guarantee you they're going to find something wrong with the property or something that can be addressed with the property, but their job is to basically tell you if this home is like, if certain things is going on with the home that need attention now, or it may need attention 10 years from now, right? but that give you a chance to ask the seller or to negotiate with the seller on some repairs, right? However, you have to be specific, and also whatever your home inspector tell you, hey, this is what I found. I found this with the electrical. So I recommend that you seek a licensed electrician. Well, you should follow what your home inspector tell you to do, especially if it's a concern to you. Here's why, because in the state of Louisiana, when you sign on that line and get your keys in your hand, any problem that come up after that, you inherit that problem. It becomes your problem, right? Because Louisiana has a law, it's called the waiver of retribution, meaning you cannot hold a seller liable for anything unless the seller intentionally hid a defect. So if the seller knew that the let's say, for example, if the seller knew that the wires in the house wasn't to code, right? Which your home inspector probably will point that out, right?
In other words, you have fuses in your home.
Right. So if that happens and the seller knew about it, then they can possibly be held accountable for that. But if it wasn't intentionally hidden by the seller, then it becomes your problem. So please get a home inspector.
Right. So, in my perspective, now Veronica spoke from the realtor perspective, and I want to speak briefly from a investor perspective and a lender. And this personally, right? The home inspector is a licensed home inspector. They took some tests, they went to some classes, but they're not licensed in trades. So you have your HVAC or mechanical trade team. They are licensed to do HVAC. Then you have plumbers who are master plumbers that's licensed through the state of Louisiana Contractors Board. You have your electricians, right? You have your general contractor. You can look up all these individuals at the Louisiana State Contracting Board. So my point is, if the home inspector sees something that's unusual and he's not really sure, or she's not really sure, then yes, call your certified HVAC guy or lady if it's a HVAC problem, because you want to know from a professional how much that this will cost, how much life is left in this piece of equipment, etc. So that's very, very important, right? Now, major things that's being looked for in a home inspection is like cracks in the bricks on the side of the wall, structural damages, right? Major things could be a deal breaker, right? Two, if it's not a deal breaker, right? If it's just some touch-up paint, some chips on the wall, right? Maybe the faucet is leaking, then those things you can take care of on your own, right? Or you can ask, like Veronica mentioned, the seller, say, listen, I love the house, but I need you to A, B, C, and D. They might say, no, we ain't doing nothing. Or they might say, no problem, we'll take care of it. Because people who selling houses, some of them are compassionate too, right? They want you to win in their house. But it's very important to get that home inspection. But again, it's not required. And tell them about the cost. What cost have you been seeing when you with your customer, Veronica?
So, I mean, a home inspection report, it costs anywhere from maybe $400 to $600. And it just depends on what other type of inspections they're doing for you as well.
Right. So you want to budget that, right? Because that is a outside cost. That's a third party fee. You don't pay that at the closing table, you pay that upfront, right? Because you want to evaluate the house yourself, because you want to know, this is something I want to live in. In addition to the home inspection, we also recommend getting a pipe inspection for your plumbing, right? That's plumbers, that's licensed plumber. Make sure you hear my words, licensed plumbers, right? That have cameras that can go down the sewer drain and look for breakage, look for clogs, and looking around to see if something is damaged, because some houses are slab home, meaning that you can't crawl underneath it. It's slab, it's just dirt, all right? So you don't know what these sewer lines look like. But when you have a certified plumber to bring that camera down, and they will give you a visual from the camera, and they will give you their recommendation what should be done. So you want to get that done. Also, termite, right? Termite inspection. You want to make sure you have a termite inspection to be able to make sure that there's no termites in your home. So those are 3 inspections that you want to have. Again, they're all third-party fees, right? Third-party company. Sometimes the home inspector or the home inspection company themselves might do all 3, right? But you wouldn't know until you have actually talked to them. But again, with Louisiana Housing Authority, we are a home ownership advocate initiative, also resource provider. So Veronica, she does this every day out in the field. So let's move on to step 7, that appraisal. So we talked about one set of fees, right? Now we're going to talk about the appraisal. The appraisal is an unbiased estimate of the true market value of the as-is condition. So that appraisal goes to school, takes some classes, takes some courses, goes out in the field before they get licensed, and they learn how to appraise homes, right? And quite frankly, it's just estimates of their opinion, right? But that's what the mortgage industry use, their estimates, to be able to finalize the actual value of that property. For example, if you have a $250,000 pre-approval from our team, and then you find a house for $250,000, only to realize that appraiser owner appraised it for less. It appraised for $200,000. Well, you don't want to overpay for the property because you're going to be losing. And the lender is not going to allow you to get a loan to overpay for the property. So the appraisal is very, very important, right? And there's a cost, right, Veronica?
Yep, it's a cost. So an appraisal fee can be anywhere from $600 to $700. It just depends on how many units they are appraising. Another thing, an appraiser is different from the home inspector, right? The home inspector is there to tell you, to tell you about any defects the home may have, right? But when the appraiser goes, they're only looking around at the current condition. And then what they're going to do is look at other homes comparable to that home that you're buying, just to see how much people are willing to pay in this market in that same neighborhood for that home. So they're there to tell the bank the value of that home.
Right, exactly. So the appraisal is very, very important. So we just covered 2 fees that we want you guys to be aware of front.
And that's before you get to closing.
Right, exactly. So now we're at step 8, right? We're kind of moving along pretty good, huh? It's not that bad, huh? Not as bad as you thought it was, right? We're on step 8 already, and that's clear to close. And what that simply means is that the underwriter has determined you've met the requirements and conditions to close on your mortgage. Who's the underwriter? Well, the underwriter is the person that says yes or no based on the guidelines they're following for their loan product, right? For example, you have a judge, right? And you have lawyers, right? So think of that mortgage lender as a lawyer. We know the facts. We know everything that you share with us. We put together a game plan. We know the guidelines ourselves. And so we put together a packet. The packet includes ID, bank statements, letter of explanations if we needed, pay stubs, etc. So we have this whole packet that we literally bring to the underwriter and say, listen, please review this. We're looking for a $250,000 loan. Let me know when you clear this bad boy, right? So the underwriter gonna look at it, and if everything's ready to go, boom, they're gonna issue a clear to close. Some cases, and oftentimes, you don't get a clear close that first time, right? That initial review. The underwriter will come back and might ask for a few more documents, and that's okay. They just need a few more documents because they have some questions that they needed answered based on the guidelines, nothing personal, right? So don't be alarmed if the lender is asking you for this document or that document. Also, don't be alarmed if you submitted a document already and you're getting a little frustrated, like, hey, I submitted that last week. Well, just resubmit it again, if you will. Why? Because everybody's human, right? There's a lot of moving parts to a loan process. We just sharing with you the obvious that most people are aware of, but you have moving parts in the background in the mortgage world. We have loan processors, we have underwriters, as I mentioned, junior loan processors, coordinators, we have closers, funders, we have reviewers, we have all kinds of things going on in the background. So as humans, sometimes documents get uploaded, but not saved on a computer file, right? We know how that happens sometimes. Sometimes it's just overlooked by a human. So don't be alarmed if somebody's asking you for some additional documents. Just be aware that your day is coming. And that's why I go back to that belief statement. If you believe, right, you clear, you know exactly where you're going, you have the action plan in place. All you got to do is just plan your work and work your plan. And that's what Veronica and I do for our clients. We plan their success for them, right? So that's your clear to close. Now, at the closing table, and this is the final step, believe it or not, you're at the closing table. And that simply means the terms of the agreement between you and the lender get executed. You're signing off on those terms. 30-year mortgage, whatever the interest rate is, whatever the mortgage payment is, et cetera, et cetera. You're just signing those documents. 2, your loan goes into effect and you receive your funds. Right at the closing table, if the funds are wired over, the seller get their check and the seller walk away. The terms of the agreement between you and the seller is confirmed. Whatever the term was, right? $250,000 home loan or a $150,000 home loan. And also ownership of the home is literally transferred to the new buyer, which is you at that closing table. And this is done at the title settlement company. There's either going to be an attorney or it may be even a notary that's going to be facilitating that transaction.
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about some numbers, right? So we don't want you guys walking away from here without actually seeing a scenario, right?
And after we talk about this, then we're going to discuss the down payment assistance.
Correct.
Yep.
So let's talk about a $200,000 home loan, correct? So if you're doing the FHA loans, 3.5% down, that's required by FHA loan. No, it's not 20%, right? Not 30%, 3.5%, right? Income tax is right around the corner for those of you getting tax returns, right? So you may have this money coming up pretty shortly for your house, right? If you don't already have it already. So let's look at this. I want you to look at the number 1, right? It says down payment 3.5% is $7,000. So if you calculate $200,000 times 3.5%, then that's $7,000. That's your down payment. So that's one cost that you need to have. The second cost is called prepaids. And that simply means that these are things that you're paying at the closing table in advance. For example, your hazardous homeowners insurance. So we're going to guesstimate that your homeowners insurance is $2,500 for the year. That's the premium. But your insurance agent, they want you to pay that $2,500 all up front, right? So keep that in mind. Your flood insurance, if you're in a flood zone, the same exact thing. You're going to be required to pay up front, prepayment. So let's assume that that's $1,200 for your flood. And of course, any city, anytime something is transferred or sold, they want their city taxes, right? So we have what we call property taxes. So let's assume that the property tax is $2,000. Then we have some miscellaneous costs in there.
Which this is paid up front.
Right, which is paid up front. The appraisal, home inspection, these things are paid up front. So let's just say a grand total of your prepaids is $5,700. So that's your second cost to be aware of. Then your third cost is your title and settlement company that we talked about, and they have their own fees. What? They're researching the title, they're preparing the paperwork. There's a lot of things that goes on in the background as well with your title company. They're getting your insurance policy in place for your title insurance, etc. They have their own third-party fees, and they might cost $2,600. So that gives you an estimate of grand total of $15,300 that you would need to bring to the closing. You might be saying, that's nothing, Randy, no big deal. Got it, let's roll. Some might say, bruh, I'm not there yet, right?
Right.
What can you do to help, right? Well, I got you. So one of the things that I want you guys to be aware of is strategy. And the reason why me and Veronica have been so successful, what we've done in real estate and mortgage, is because we use strategies. We don't use the traditional conventional way, right? We think through things, right? Very creative. So here's an example. Right. We have one which is called Homes for Heroes program. And our Homes for Heroes program basically offers 100% financing for heroes. These heroes are anybody in the healthcare professional. It doesn't matter if you are a CNA, a doctor, or you are a dentist assistant or a dentist, doesn't matter. Anybody in the medical healthcare field qualified as a hero. 2, teachers, whether it's elementary, junior high, high school, college, etc. And military, whether you are a veteran, active military, firefighters, police officers, any first responders, right? All qualify for our Homes for Heroes program. And again, it gives 100% financing. That's part of our down payment assistance. So if you know anybody, including yourself, you can get access to that. The second option is for those who are not heroes, right? We have a down payment assistance program for you all as well. And in fact, one of the programs is actually like a grant. You have a product that is zero interest, no monthly payment, and we're going to be able to provide the down payment assistance for 3.5%. So remember that $7,000 that you need to put down, well, the down payment assistance is going to give you access to that same 3.5%. But here's the caveat to this thing, guys. If you pay your mortgage on time for 36 consecutive months, AKA 3 years, that mortgage down payment assistance is forgivable.
Right.
It's forgivable. And if something happens that you miss a payment in month 10, that's okay. The time clock starts over at month 10 and you have to wait 36 consecutive months and it's forgivable. That, my friends, is huge. And this can go up to 5%. It doesn't always work, but it's possible. We see it working from time to time. So having said that, let's break down what it looks like to obtain the down payment assistance. So remember, we talked about the $7,000 that you need to have down, correct? We talked about the total cost being $15,300. So if you take $15,300 minus the $7,000 down payment assistance, then that leaves you with $8,300. But some of you guys are like, you excited right now, like, you know what? I have that $8,300. We can about to rock and roll. Let's get this thing started, right? Some of you guys say, yeah, I'm not that yet, but my income tax return coming around the corner. But Randall, what else can you do for me, right? I'm a first-time home buyer, right? Well, this is where most strategies come in. And I'll be telling everybody our secret, right? Let's keep that from us, right? Right, us, right here, right? So here's a strategy. With an FHA loan, the seller themselves can contribute up to 6% of the sales price. Up to 6%. So assuming that our home loan, assuming our purchase price is $200,000 times 6%, that gives you a grand total of $12,000 that the seller can give you as a seller credit to help you with your closing costs and prepaids. It can't go towards your down payment. It must go towards your closing costs and your prepaids. Right. But here's what I want to caution you at. Veronica mentioned earlier that the market that we're in. Can you explain to them a little bit what market that we're in?
Yes, so we are currently in a seller's market. So Veronica, what does that mean? That means we have a limited inventory available. And when a house come up for sale, and if it's a nice house, I can guarantee you they have multiple offers. You might have 10 to 12 people trying to put an offer on that house that you want. So it's going to be kind of hard, challenging to get a seller to pay a full 6% towards your closing costs, right?
Correct, absolutely. But they do want to sell his house, right? Mm-hmm. They are motivated, obviously. But you may be able to request maybe $3,000, right? Mm-hmm. How would that help? Because a lot of people don't have access to the down payment assistance program that we're referring to, nor the 100% Heroes program that we refer to. Right. But you guys do. Why? Because you attended this webinar. So when you are in a position, you're ready to move forward, you call us, call Veronica, call myself, either one, and we're going to ask you, did you attend the webinar? And then we can give you some pointers and give you access to this, right? Now, my point of saying is this, $8,300 you see you still need. But if the seller is willing to give you $3,000, then that slashes your cost down to $5,300. So technically, all you need is $5,300 to close. If the seller say, hey, I'll give you $5,000, that's even better, right? That means your $8,300 is slashed $5,000 to $3,300. Veronica and I closed a gentleman, I think this loan was $327,000, something like that.
Mhm.
And Veronica was able to negotiate a full, believe it or not, a full seller 6% credit.
Yeah, yeah.
We did a down payment assistance. You remember how much he had to bring to the table?
Zero.
Zilch, nada, right?
Yeah.
Because of the strategy, right? But we want to have proper expectations set. So you do want to have cash savings, right? And I always tell people, listen, you want to have about $5,000 to $7,000 saved, period, right? Because with the down payment assistance, you'll be able to get yourself in a position, right? But if you have $0 saved, then you're gonna have to work on your savings.
Mhm.
But here's another strategy, another golden nugget. You guys taking notes, make sure you write this down. One of the strategies is that you can use a gift from a family member, a gift in the form of a donation to you. They will be called a donor, and you can combine that gift with the seller credit and with our down payment assistance. So for example, you have somebody you love in your family. Let's say that you living in the house with your siblings. It's you and your brother and your mom or whoever. Everybody could work together to pool their funds together and come up with $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 collectively as a family. And they can give you a gift if you're going to be the one on the loan for the $3,300.
Mhm.
Now, this varies based on credit scores and debt to income ratio. So I can't promise you that it's going to work every time. It depends on the scenario, how much debt you have, how much credit, etc. But we can combine those things typically. So I hope you guys got some value out of it. That's huge, guys, because what we don't want you to be doing is thinking that you need $20,000 to close a house,
Right.
$25,000 to close. No, you don't. When you come to us, we can work some strategies. So let's move on to the 5 qualifications for a home loan approval. And again, we do all our approvals through home loans through Geneva Financial, right? Just to give you a little background with Geneva Financial. Those who are just joining, joined late after we shared our story, Geneva Financial, we are both corporate branch managers, and one of my jobs is to open up new branches in different states and different cities, hire branch managers and loan officers and oversee them. But Veronica and I have a branch here in the Southeast Louisiana that we operate. And that's who we do our primary loans through, and that's who we do our down payment assistance through as well. And so we in 46 different states, right? 130 plus branches, been around for 14 years. So we've been around the block a few times. And here are the 5 major qualifications you want to be aware of. Number 1, income, right? You have to have income coming in. If you're a W-2, at least 2 full years of uninterrupted income. If the employment gap that you had was for COVID, that's fine. We just need to have proof from your employer that it was from COVID, right? And that's some other guidelines in there. But income, right? If you are a self-employed person, 2 years of tax returns, most recent P&L, profit and loss statement, and that gives us the idea of what you're earning today versus what you earned in the past. So income is a big qualifying factor. 2, credit score. What credit score should you have? Veronica, share like what credit score that they should shoot for. What should be their target?
So we can work with people with as little as a 620 credit score, but I always recommend and suggest that you get up to a 640. Why? Because then the underwriting process is not as tight as it would be if you had a 620. Plus you get a better cost on the interest rate. So that's what I recommend, a 640.
Absolutely. And so you want to track your scores and write this down. myfico.com. FICO. myfico.com. Obviously it costs, right? It's America, capitalistic company, corporation, right? So basically, you know, FICO score is the closest to the mortgage lender score that you're going to get, right? It's the most accurate. In fact, they have different type of scores. They have auto loan scores, they have credit card scores, and they have mortgage scores, and what else?
Insurance scores.
Insurance score. So when you go and you pull your FICO scores, you want to see all 3 credit reports, all 3 credit scores, and you're particularly looking for your mortgage score. But that's going to be different based on the other score. So that's how you're able to track it. Also, they give you tips and strategy of how to raise your credit scores, right? Next, cash available to close. We just talked about that in the last slide. Debt to income ratios, right? You want to have your expenses as low as possible. You want to have your debts as low as possible. That way you can qualify for as high as possible that you can, right? And we have collateral, which is the value of the property that you're buying. That's the collateral. What is it appraised for? What is the value, right? So that is the 5 criteria. So I want you guys to be aware of, hey, here's some of the initial loan documents that you're gonna need. We're not gonna go through each one of them, but Veronica wants you to share with them, you know, why we need these things. Like, what's the purpose of why we're asking for it?
Yeah, so the purpose of these things is, for one, we need to know who you are, and you are the person you say you are, right? That's why we need your ID. We need to see your assets, how much money you have saved up, how much money you have, do you have enough for closing? We also need to see how much money you make, just to make sure you can actually qualify for the loan that you're asking about, and how much you made in the past 2 years. So.
Right. And so guys, look, that was a lot of great questions in the chat. And so we're trying our best to answer them, but just make sure you write them down, because we will open up the call for questions and answers. I want to make sure you guys get your answers. So thank you for those questions. Great questions.
And we'll go back after this and answer the questions that we do see in the chat.
Right. Absolutely. So let's move on. That's the same slide? Oh,
You're
gotcha.
self-employed.
Oh,
So if
self-employed.
you're self-employed, the only thing that's different is, instead of W-2s, we need the last 2 years of tax returns and your profit and loss statement, along with any 1099s.
Right. So as you can see, guys, go back to the W-2 too. This is not a lot of documents for initial pre-approval. So don't be afraid. Just gather these things. The W-2s, that just shows us what you earned in the past. Your current pay stub shows us what you're earning now. Bank statement just proves that you have some money to close, right? Because the last thing you want to do is go through this whole process and you want to have $1,500 in the bank, but you need $5,000 to close, right?
Yeah.
We just want to prove to the underwriter that you have access to that, right?
And again, when you're signing the purchase agreement, you're signing saying that you have everything that the bank needs from you, which means if you don't have it, right, and you wind up telling the seller, hey, I can't get this home because I don't have enough for my down payment. Well, you know what happens to your deposit that you put up? Because when you first find a house, you have to put down a deposit anywhere from $500 to $1,000. In today's market, they're doing $1,500 and $2,000. Well, if you don't have all the money that you need, that you told the bank you had, the seller could keep that deposit.
Right. And that's what you don't want to do. So this, keep in mind that purchase contract is actually the legal binding document. That's the purpose of it. So listen, guys, we're getting ready to wrap up. And so we're going to talk a little bit about credit, right? Some of you guys seen the slide before, you may be aware of it, and we're going to give you a couple of strategies, a long-term strategy and a short-term strategy. But payments, right? 35% of your payments is calculated into your scores, meaning that it should be on time, it shouldn't be delinquent, right? In the last 24 months. I always tell people, look at the last 12 months, right? Because at the end of the day, you can have a $15 payment monthly, $15, and you miss that one $15 payment, it could drop your credit score tremendously, 60, 80, 90, 100 points. Just for that one late payment. So you do not want to be late. I know you're mad with the creditor. I know it's not fair, but damn it, you're trying to buy your house, make that payment, right? If you can.
Right. Just don't pay off no old collections yet until you talk to a lender.
Right. That's a good point. You know, I can't stress to you enough, you know, if you're on a board, like if your credit score 580, 550, like I was, right? It was just horrible. Then you got to work on that, right? But if you had that borderline around a 620, 630, 610, 615, you want Veronica and I to look at it, let us know, right? We have a free consultation because all you need is a little bit of adjustment, a little tweak, and we could get you over that hump, right? And so the point Veronica was making, don't just go pay off stuff. Right? There's certain things that the credit repair companies will tell you, or a credit repair expert will tell you, but they're not mortgage lenders. Nope. If they was, they would be lending money, right? So you don't have to pay off some of these collections that you think you need to pay off. Save that money, consult with us, and we'll tell you if you need to pay it off or not. Right. I hope that makes sense. Right. So 30% is going to be just the percentage of what you owe versus the credit limit, right? And what that simply means is this: if you have a high balance, well, excuse me, if you have a high limit, right? Let's say you have $1,000 high limit, then your ideal balance should be 30% or below. So $1,000 times 30%, that's $300. So your balance shouldn't be over $300.
And he's referring to credit cards.
Credit cards, right? Revolving lines of credit. Installment loans, like auto loans or some type of student loan, some type of loan that's installment, means that they give you a credit for $10,000 to buy your car, and when you pay it off, the account closes. That's installment loan. That really doesn't boost your credit score. What the credit bureau would love is revolving lines of credit, whether it's a credit card or whether it's literally a trade line that's revolving, meaning that if you have a $10,000 limit, right, and you spend $9,000 and you pay it off, then you get the $10,000 back. It keeps revolving. Right. And so again, let's use our example about $1,000 credit card. That's your high limit. 30% of 1,000 is 300. So you want to keep your balances below 300. Personally, I say get it below 300. Like my credit cards, I have 2 credit cards. 2. They're very, very minimal. And I just buy a cup of coffee. Well, I don't drink coffee. I'll buy maybe a drink, a bottle of water, or I might buy something to eat, and I pay it off. So my usage is very, very low. And every month, and this is the loan, this is every month, it updates to the credit bureau. And the credit bureau want to see if you maxed out or not. If you have a $1,000 credit line and you spent $900, then the credit bureau say, hey, you're not being responsible. We gotta watch you, score you low.
So you become a risk. You
become a higher risk. But if you got a $1,000 credit line, you only owe $10 or 0, then you're not risky. They score you higher. Right. And then you can continue that path. Now, let's talk about these strategies, right? You have long-term and short-term. You might be asking yourself, well, Randy, if the credit bureau loves revolving lines of credit, I'm getting denied of credit cards because my credit score is low. What can I do? And that makes sense. I get it. If you can't get approved for a credit card, you can't get a credit card, but you need a credit card to approve your score. Like, which comes first, right? So here's a strategy called a secured credit card, where you can go to a bank, some of them are online, and you can literally ask for a secured credit card. Meaning you put $300 up of your own money into an account, and it will give you a $300 credit card backed by your money. And it still works the same exact way. Just make sure it's being reported to all 3 credit bureaus. Now, some of you guys may not have no credit cards, and that's going to be one of your solutions, is to go to pick up 1 or 2 of those secure credit cards. Don't spend a whole lot of money. Buy you a cup of coffee, a bottle of water, pay it off. You want to use it because they will close your account if they see you're not using it. And you're using this credit card not to use it, but you're using it for a strategy. Right. So keep that in mind. So if you have 1 or 2 of these, now that gives you an opportunity to raise your credit score. But keep in mind, this is a long-term strategy because you have no history. Remember, the first thing at the top, it says payment history, 35%. You have no history. So it's going to take you about 6 months, 7 months, even 8 months or higher to see your score start to jump up because you build in history. But here's the other strategy, the short-term strategy. You can be added on to somebody else's revolving line of credit as an authorized user. You simply have to trust that person, right? Obviously, that person credit card balance need to be low themselves. They must be paying their credit card on time, because the worst thing you want to do is get their credit report on yours and theirs bad, right? So you want to confirm that they have good credit, they're responsible, right? And you ask them humbly and say, listen, I'm trying to buy a house. Would you mind helping me to raise my credit score by allowing me to be an authorized user on your revolving line of credit,
Right.
Your credit card?
And you don't need to hold one of their credit cards. You just need to be added on to the account. That's it.
Please get that. The credit card gonna come in the mail, but it's gonna come to them. They can cut it up, throw it away, make sure that you don't get it. You don't need that. But here's the strategy. Get this. Think about this. Now, when you are added on 3 weeks later or so, somewhere in that area, it's going to show up on your credit report. So when you go to myfico.com, you look at your credit report, you're going to see their credit card account revolving on your report. But here's what else you're going to see, guys. You're going to see the entire history on that. So if they had this card for 10 years, guess what? You got 10 years on your credit report. If they had it for 5 years, 5 years showing up on yours. Why is that important? Well, look at step one, payment history, 35%. You get immediate history on your credit profile. That means your credit report, your scores, whoop, going up. Now, this is assuming that you have no recent collections. This is assuming you have no recent late payments, right? If you have these collection late payments, then the strategy is going to take a little longer. You still got to deal with those, but to add positive trade lines, that's how you're able to move forward. Anything you want to add before we jump on?
Yeah, and when you're building your credit, when you use it, you don't want to pay it off to zero. You just want to pay it down. So leave a small balance on there so that the credit bureau or the creditor can see that you know how to manage your credit. So that's what helps as well with increasing your score.
Absolutely. So, as we wrap up, guys, we have another webinar coming up, right? And the reason why we're doing this one, because a lot of people have been asking, hey, Randy, can you do something? Can you and Veronica do something in regards to debt, how to pay off debt, how to minimize our living expenses, right? And so we have another program coming up. Mark the date. It's going to be next Tuesday, same time, 7:00 p.m., right? You have access to how to pay off these debts, minimize your taxes, lower monthly expenses. You also have how to organize financial knowledge and attain and intelligently direct it, right? It's not about knowledge. We heard it said before. It's not about even applied knowledge. It's about using knowledge that you attain in a certain way and then intelligently directing it. Next, how to escape that rat race. How to escape the trap of living an average life, living paycheck to paycheck. We're going to talk about how to get rid of the mind of limiting beliefs and how to alter it for success. We're also going to discover the financial strategies that you can use in a certain way that will get you the results that you really want in your life. So that webinar that we're going to be putting on next week, if you go to lha mentoringprogram.info, there's a site that you can read and register. It's for free, right? Just like you registered for this event. So that gives you an opportunity to be able to get another step closer to getting those keys in your hands for your home. It gives you an opportunity, if you already have the keys in your hand, you want to get a forever dream home, you have access to that as well. So again, that's lha mentoringprogram.info. So guys, we're gonna do this. We're gonna open up for some questions. But here's what we need to do. There's a lot of people that's on, so there's gonna be a lot of background noise. So you have a mute button. You should be able to unmute yourself, right? And you should be able to speak, but make sure once you ask your question, you mute it back. So let's do this first. We already have some questions in the chat Veronica's mentioned. We're gonna read through these questions, answer, and then we're gonna open it up for everybody to speak, because we might answer your question already.
Yep. So the first question is, how do potential buyers locate an inspector? So usually your real estate agent can help you with that or refer you to a few people, or you can just go to Google and Google home inspectors in New Orleans. And that way you can look up their reviews and everything.
Good question.
What is the name of the waiver again? I believe you're referring to the waiver of right of retribution.
Right. Yep, that's what it was.
Okay. Do you have a license in Mississippi as well? Not at the moment, we don't, but we do work with other people in that state. So if you are interested, we can get you with somebody.
Right, we're licensed in Louisiana, Florida, and also Georgia.
Yeah. Can the underwriter reject the loan due to negative dispute remarks on your credit report? No. So it's a certain way we handle disputes depending on the loan type. So that's something that we can help you with and work with you with that. And we can, it just depends on the amount. So if it's, and also if it's medical or non-medical. So there's a number of things that's come into play with that. So you can actually give us a call with that one and we can kind of walk you through that one.
Right, right. So we just need some more clarity or what actually is it. And by the way, guys, you probably see it, but those are direct numbers, right? So feel free, to save them in your phones.
All right, mental health and substance abuse workers, do they qualify?
Yes.
Yes. All right. I work with medical insurance. Does that count? Medical insurance?
Yes.
Okay. Daycare teachers? Yes, you count as well. Y'all take care of our babies. Any other programs if you don't fit that? Well, we have 5 different programs, so you may fit one of those down payment assistance programs.
Exactly.
So the average credit score, we already answered that. We can work with you with as little as a 620, but we do highly recommend a 640.
Right, and myfico.com is where you want to go and look at your reports.
So what if you work and have a business? That is a good question. So if you work, we can use your working income, your business. You will have to have your business for at least 2 years in order for us to actually use the business income. And for my self-employed entrepreneurs, you do want to have that conversation with your tax preparer or CPA and let them know, hey, I'm in the process of working towards buying a home. That way they can direct you and instruct you on how to claim and write off your expenses. Because what happens is if you write off too much and you claim nothing for profit, then guess what? We have to deduct that negative amount from something. And where does that come from? Your primary working income.
Right. In some cases, if it's set up properly, we don't even have to use your business income. We could just strictly use your W-2 employment income.
Yeah, but and also if we can use your business income, of course, by all means, we'll use it and that can help you as well. But we do have a self-employment video we did on our website.
Right. So if you go to lahousingauthority.org and /education, right? I'm sorry, lahousingauthority.org/education. There's a series of videos, and one of them is called Self-Employed Income.
Yep. What if you receive Social Security disability? That is acceptable. Underwriter, no lender cannot discriminate because you receive Social Security. We help people all the time with Social Security, VA benefits as well.
Right.
Yep.
Child support, income loan. We're able to show that it's constant.
All right. So what if you have a decent credit score, self-employed, but the income isn't at the normal income rate? How would that work? So we have entrepreneur loans as well. So that's something we can discuss. And that's where we use your bank statements. So that can be an option. But I'm gonna tell you this, the interest rate is a little higher and it may want you to have at least 20% down. But we have entrepreneur loans.
And then it also depends on your expenses every month that you have, right?
Yep. Oh, you're welcome. Thank y'all for attending. We appreciate that. We're glad you found some value.
Yes, much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, I would like to know how you are calculating student loans into the overall DTI. So it depends on the loan type. If it's an FHA loan, we take a 0.5% of the total outstanding balance, and that's what we use as your monthly payment. Even if you're not paying anything on your student loans, we still have to use something towards your monthly liability, because there's a law called the Dodd-Frank law. And it states that the borrower has to demonstrate the ability to repay the loan. So what that means is, for a lender, we have to take into consideration even debt that isn't being paid on now. So we
Future
have to,
debt.
right, future debt, that's the word I'm looking for.
Right, and just to add to that, you know, as a quick example, let's say you have $100,000 worth of student loans. Well, the easy math is times that by 1%, so that'd be $1,000, and just divide it by 2, and that'll give you that 0.5%.
Yeah.
So that'll be $500 that we have to calculate in your debt to income ratio.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that can happen with that is that if you reach out to your student loan service provider and say, listen, what will my mortgage payment be with an income-driven repayment plan if I wasn't on forbearance, or I was actually paying? So the key term is income-driven repayment plan. Yeah. And if you could get something in writing on a company letterhead from the student loan servicer, we can use that payment if it benefits you, right? So if you have $100,000 student loan and the income-driven repayment plan says $125 payment, we can use that $125 payment.
That's right. Yep. So if a person has a certificate from LHC, can that be used? Yes, ma'am. We do participate in that program. Thank you both for the knowledge and following the tools. I look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you. We look forward to working with you as well. Yeah, after this seminar, what's the next step? So after this seminar, if you are ready, you need to contact us. That would be the next step, and we can have a free consultation. And our numbers are on the screen if you can still see it.
Right, exactly. So we'll just ask you a few questions just to learn more about your finances, and we'll give you an action plan to get started and get the ball rolling.
Yep. Thank you, Brittany. I was on my job for 4 years. However, was Hurricane Ida hit, I left before then. I was on a previous job 3 years. Currently, I am unemployed, but I do have another. All right. So if you were on your job previously and now you're unemployed, okay, this is the thing with unemployment. You have to have an income, and the income has to be proven to continue for at least the next 3 years. So being that you're unemployed now, I would work hard as possible to find employment,
right,
and start working. Now, as long as if you've been unemployed for more than 6 months, then you would have to be on your job for at least 6 months in order to qualify for a home loan. If it's longer than, is it longer than 6 months?
I believe it is.
Yeah, if you're on your job, if you've been unemployed for less than 6 months, then you have to be on your current job for 6 months in order to qualify. If you've been unemployed for more than 6 months, then you have to be on your current job for a year, it is.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
And it varies on the product.
Yeah.
Loan product.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We see a lot of great, saying great information. Thank you. Much appreciated. You're welcome, guys.
How do you sign up, and do we do credit repair? Give us a call. We don't do credit repair, but we do have a company that we work with. However, I don't believe in just sending people off saying, oh, you need to speak to them. I'm going to talk to you first to see if it's something that you can do and rectify yourself before you go and spend additional money.
Right. Great question. I love this question.
I have a housing voucher. How does that work? So there are programs. If you have a housing voucher and that's something that you want to keep, they have lenders that offer Section 8 loans, to where you can use your voucher as income to help you qualify.
Correct.
However, we don't participate in that program at the moment. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Any programs for CDL drivers. So if you are a driver, a CDL driver, if you're paid W-2, then yes. If you're paid 1099, yes to that as well.
Right.
So it just depends on your situation.
Right. Yeah. So we have that down payment assistance program for anybody that's not a hero. So you still get access to the down payment assistance. So yeah, you're good to go.
CVS Help Desk. What have you worked for them?
CVS, the pharmacist?
Yes.
Yes, that's fine. Mm-hmm.
What is your thoughts on USDA loans? Oh, we love them. It's 100% financing. We love them.
Yep.
Love them.
We just closed another one maybe a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Brand new construction.
USDA loans is 100% financing.
Correct, exactly.
Yeah.
The only difference with USDA loans is that they have a certain eligibility. So meaning that the house, the address of the house have to meet in the eligible area. But our down payment assistance program we have, it could be anywhere in Louisiana, Florida, Atlanta, excuse me, Georgia.
Is this PowerPoint available for email?
No, but we do have it being recorded. So we'll have the recording version up on LAHousingAuthority.org soon.
Okay, and how can I go through this process while on Section 8? I just answered that question, but I would suggest that you speak with the caseworker and
First.
they can direct you to the path of
Yep.
home ownership. Yep. USPS workers.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Down payment assistance.
Down payment
We got you.
assistance for USPS workers. We got you too.
Yep.
I'm glad that I took the time to attend this webinar on my current job. I empower folks to getting them connected to housing resources. I would be referring folks here. Oh, thank you, Miss Debbie. We appreciate that.
We appreciate it. And just so too, just a quick add note too, if we have a program called Financial Wellness Program. This is what you guys are going to be really attending next week. Remember the program we just talked about? But we have it for HR directors and HR managers. So if you know any HR directors, HR managers that have employees you want to keep engaged and help them, we can come in and do a financial wellness benefit program for them. There's an added benefit that costs them anything, and we go through this type of knowledge form. And so it's important for business owners and HR directors and managers because they keep the employee engaged because it's so hard to find good talent today to hire, and it's extremely hard to keep that top talent.
Yep. And you can also send them to our website too, Miss Debbie.
Right. Yep.
Thank you. We appreciate you all as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate how informative and relatable you both were. Oh, we appreciate that. We're comfortable going forward with the home buying process. I look forward to it.
Awesome.
So be blessed. You too,
We done a
Kalia.
lot. I want to make sure that.
All right. Thank y'all so much. I really appreciate how informative and relatable you both were. I feel more comfortable going forward with the home buying process. I look forward to the next webinar. Be blessed.
All right. We like that because that's what makes us motivated to keep going, because when you guys get the simplicity, we take big concepts and make them simple, right? And so when you're able to share that information, that feedback, what is that? It helps. That means a lot.
Mm-hmm. So what is credit given and earnest money? So credit given, I'm not sure what you meant by that, but earnest money is the money that you give to the seller just to hold the property until you get your finance and your mortgage loan to closing. So that's the money, that's the deposit money that you put up.
Yep.
All right. Sorry, can you repeat the info about the share? Section 8, I couldn't hear. Okay, so with the Section 8, I do recommend that you speak with your caseworker and they can refer you to lenders that offer the program for housing.
Right.
Yep. Does this work for dietary workers? Yes, we have other programs that will work for dietary workers as well.
Correct.
Yep. We try not to leave nobody out.
Right. That's our intention.
Yeah. All right.
Good
So
question.
we'll open it up now.
Yep. So that was some great questions. So we're gonna hang around for another 10 minutes or so. You see me looking because it's kind of hard to get our screen. All right, got it. All right. So all right. So I'm gonna open it up. So if you guys don't mind, keep your computers muted until we get through the questions. And if you have a question, of course, unmute yourself at that point. So hold on. All right, so you have an opportunity to unmute yourself as well at this moment.
Anybody have any questions that wasn't asked, things that we didn't go over?
Awesome, awesome. Well, listen, guys, as we close, I think we have one person. Let's see.
Yes.
Hold on.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Lee,
How you doing?
Yeah, it wouldn't let me unmute.
Gotcha. Oh, we saw your hand wave. We're like, oh, we got somebody. How can we serve you, Ms. Duncan?
Okay, I wanted to know, you mentioned the myfico.com website. Is that any different than using other websites like Credit Karma? Is it like a soft inquiry?
Yes.
Good question.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a consumer pull, so it's not going to count as an inquiry from the a company, and it's different from Credit Karma, because Credit Karma, they're good at tracking what's on the report, but they're not so good at being accurate on the scores themselves.
Right.
My FICO is the closest you can get to what we pull on our end, and they actually have market scores.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So my FICO is a.
What about other credit card companies?
Yeah,
Because I have Discover and they do give me a FICO score on there.
As long as it's FICO, you're fine.
But again, remember, you have different scores. So when they give you that FICO score, that's probably your credit card FICO score.
Good point. Right. This FICO scores have loan scores, credit card scores, insurance scores, and mortgage scores. So when you see it on your credit card, it's probably like Veronica said, it's a credit card score.
Right. And keep in mind, with Credit Karma, a lot of people are not aware of, they actually sell your information. So they sell people's information to like credit card companies, because they track what we do. So they're tracking your activity. So if you're searching for some type of loan, then you'll notice you may have that solicitation coming in the mail. So they're in the business to sell your information.
So good question. I hope that helps some. All right, anybody else had a question?
She can't unmute. Oh.
Let's see.
Let's see if you can unmute.
Okay, hold on.
Sorry, I've got like 6 kids in there.
Oh, no worries.
That's okay. We have 5 upstairs.
That's okay. Did they answer your question? Did it help?
But yes, the info that I'm sorry, your phone numbers give me the impression that y'all are in the New Orleans area. Do y'all service people in like the Baker, Baton Rouge area?
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Okay. One more question.
Go ahead.
How do y'all balance what people want with being realistic?
Great question.
Being realistic ourselves. That's
right. We just set proper expectations.
That's it.
Right.
Proper expectations. So that's why we have the consultation. So we discuss whatever the situation is. If we need to bring them back to reality, we bring them back to reality. That's all.
Okay.
All right. Good question. Thank you for
Thank
asking.
you.
You're welcome.
Another question in the chat was, are you required to have 2 years employment with USDA? Yes. All home loans, you need a 2-year employment history.
Great question.
Yeah.
So we just scrolling through to see if there's any other hands that's being raised, and if there was any other questions.
I think that's it.
Okay, so I think that is it. So again, guys, lahousingauthority.org/education, or just click the tab that says education on there. There's a lot of videos. This video itself is recorded. So we're going to be posting this as well on lahousingauthority.org. Going to need that education tab. So listen, guys, God bless. Enjoy the rest of your day on purpose. We need that. Take care.
And no, we don't work with NACA. Thank you.